Hi everybody, welcome back to This Is How We Do It. I'm Todd and Kasha's doing some filming today. We're doing breakfast for the kids, and this is an easy breakfast for beginners to learn how to make. It only has a few ingredients. We got some bacon. What we did is we took a pack of bacon while it was still frozen and cut it in thirds. That just makes it so you have smaller, you're not wasting all the bacon, and it cooks a lot easier. And for kids, they're just smaller pieces, so you can go through a little bit less bacon. These are really cool. They're Hungry Jack potatoes. They sell different brands. We kind of found these when we were looking for stuff for our survival kit. They're dehydrated. It's kind of what they use at, it's actually the same thing they use at IHOP and all the restaurants where they have this type of shoestring potato. You soak them in water, and in the package it says you soak them for 15 minutes. You can do it a lot quicker. What we're going to do is put in water in the container, and we're going to microwave it for 3 minutes. That's going to heat it up and make sure that the potatoes get nice and soft and they're ready to go in 3 minutes instead of 15. You need some eggs. Now, the eggs we get are, you can get eggs at the store. Our eggs happen to be from a friend that brings us eggs that has chicken, so that's why they're all different colors. And we're going to use those, and you get a much better yolk out of them. But the store-bought eggs work fine. So to do this easy breakfast, you just need some butter and eggs. One of these potato things are only $1 at the dollar store. It's a lot cheaper there. And some bacon, salt and pepper to season it. So this is a real simple breakfast for the beginner. Pans I'm using, you could do it all in one pan by cooking the bacon first, putting it aside, and then cooking your potatoes, put them aside. As long as you do the eggs last, you're okay, because the eggs are got to be nice and hot where the potatoes will hold the heat, and the bacon's gonna, doesn't stay hot more than probably a minute and a half. So depends how you want to do it. First thing we're gonna do is turn on a pan for our bacon. I'm gonna use this heavier duty pan, and we're gonna put it on like medium, let it start getting hot. Grab our potatoes. We're going to open the potatoes and put water in. And I don't know if you can see in there. I'll put some in my hand. They're just dehydrated potatoes, so they can sit on your shelf. You don't have to refrigerate them. We buy them by the cases, so we always have potatoes. I'm using bottled water. Where we're at, we don't drink the tap water, so we're using bottled water. And I'm going to fill it up till the first crease, like a milk, just like a regular milk carton. So you got to cover all the potatoes in there. It should take almost a whole bottle. And it did. So you can see where the water is at in there. It's right on that line. Now sometimes this will explode in the microwave and bubble out when it gets really hot. So what we're going to do is put it in the microwave. But first, just to make sure it doesn't make a mess in our microwave, just set it in a bowl. So if it boils out, it stays in the bowl, not all over your microwave. So we're going to do 3 minutes on the potatoes. Get those nice and hydrated again. We're going over here. The pan's already getting warm. So the bacon, like I said, I cut them in smaller pieces. They're easier to manage into your pan. You don't have to stretch them out everywhere. And they're easier to divide out when you have kids that might eat 1 or 2 pieces of bacon. And this is only, that's 1 piece right there, even though it shows us 3. So you waste a lot less bacon. Or you resist the urge of eating the whole pound of bacon.
Don't waste in our house.
Yeah, bacon doesn't go anywhere in our house. We just keep eating it. So
we gotta have a small pieces so they don't fight over it and so look like they got more.
Yeah, so we're just gonna spread the bacon out as that pan's getting hot. There's so much grease in this. Now you could use, oh, there goes a piece of the ground. You could use butter to do your eggs, or what we'll probably end up doing when I do mine is I use the bacon grease that I get out of the pan. And I fry the eggs in that. That way they, you don't even have to have the grease or butter with you. You're going to get it right out of the bacon. And the eggs taste a lot better when they're fried in bacon grease. Anything fried in bacon grease kind of tastes better. So
The potatoes.
again, this is a really beginner video for people that are getting out on their own, that want to start cooking more if they didn't do it at home. We do more elaborate stuff, but this is just an easy one. So we just spread the bacon out. It's already starting to sizzle. So we also noticed in our comments that we're getting some people saying that we don't tell you exact amounts to use of spices and seasoning. Now, the reason I'm not giving you exact amounts, when you go to a lot of websites, they tell you it takes a 1/4 teaspoon and 1/8 of a teaspoon. The problem with that is the products they're using aren't consistent. So you could buy 2 cans of green beans. One can has, even though it says 12 ounces in the can, might only have 8 ounces of bean, and the other can has 10 ounces of bean. So when you mix those, you're not getting an equal proportion. So you got to kind of adjust your seasoning based on that.
Plus
So
your own taste.
I'm going to tell you what I would put in it, kind of showing you, but you have to adjust that based on the volume you're getting. So always taste your food when you're cooking it and make sure. But that's why I'm not giving you exact proportions. Kind of playing it by ear, because you go to a restaurant and you're working in the back with a chef. They're not sitting there measuring 1/4 cups at a time. They're measuring gallons of seasoning, and then when they taste it, they know to add more or less, and they can break that down into single recipes where it's a teaspoon, but it's not always the most accurate. So It does depend a lot on your taste. That's why I'm not measuring. This is simple cooking, not chef cooking where I'm trying to teach you how to make hollandaise and stuff like that. We will get to that, but right now we're just on the very basics. So that's why there's no measurements being shown. I'm just kind of telling you because it's your own personal preference.
Yes, you always do your food your way. So this is how we do it ours. You can always add more or less when you're cooking your own. Do it to your own taste.
So the beeper went off on the 3 minutes in the microwave, so we're going to check the potatoes, see if they're swelling up already. They usually are. They're already to the top. It's nice and hot. We're going to give that another couple seconds here, and we're going to end up draining the water out of that because we don't want all that water in our pan. So now you can use butter to fry these hash browns, or you could use the grease you're going to get from the bacon. If you're doing it with one pan, then just wait till you're done with your bacon and use the grease.
Okay, the bacon looks like the bacon you might need to flip around. It's getting sticky to the pan. You gotta check it.
You can check it and make sure the bacon should come off the pan easy. And if it's not browning up, keep it down. The goal is to keep it from wrinkling too much, because once it starts wrinkling, you get those spots that you don't, the little raw spots like right here. So if you just hold your tongs on it for a second, that's just because the top's cold and the bottom's hot and it wants to shrivel.
Yeah, if you turn them around too easily, they will just start.
They'll stay that way. And watch, I'll flip this one and show you. See where that little nipple is right there? That's not cooking. If I flip that, now I'm not going to be cooking that whole lip. So you can just hold it down for a second and usually it'll heat it up and start bringing that lip back down. And if you don't care and you like those chewy spots, you can leave it that way. My kids aren't that picky. They like their bacon any way they can get it. And bacon is our favorite food group. And we know it's not a food group, but it seems like one because it works good in everything. And we're going to keep flipping all these. Those potatoes are still soaking over there. As soon as I flip these, I'm going to turn on the burner for the potatoes. Since we are only using we're using separate pans. My hands aren't working this morning to flip bacon, but we're getting there. Let's get them all flipped over.
So if you have just one pan or you don't want to make mess with many of them, just wait for the bacon to be done. You can put on a side on a paper towel to kind of strain the grease from the bacon, and whatever's in the pan, you
I
can
got a
use
frisky
it.
guy here. He's like a fish. You don't want to get it flipped over. I don't know what's going on. So we're going to do him by hand. He's a rough one there. Now another thing about bacon people always make the mistake on is they pull the bacon off when they think it's crispy where they want it. The problem with bacon is it still crisps up, so always cook the bacon less crisp than you want it, and when it dries or the grease comes off and starts cooling, it's going to crisp up a lot more than you would expect.
Yeah, remember it's still hot, so it's still cooking, even if it's off the pan.
I'm going to get some fancy napkins here to catch my grease. And you can set the bacon right on there. I like to put it on my little rack there to lift it up, but you can put the bacon right on the paper towels there. And actually we might end up doing this all in one pan because the bacon's getting done pretty quick. Yeah. So you see this little piece of bacon here, he looks like he might not be done, but he is going to crisp up as he sits there. And if I were to keep going with that, it would just turn into a dry piece of meat that'd be really hard to eat.
Yeah, you can see it's still sizzling, all the grease, it's still cooking the meat.
So we're gonna get all that out. We might be doing this in one pan, we'll see. So it looks like I'm pretty caught up.
No, the kids love the bacon grease, so can't go wrong with that. We not say we're cooking healthy, we're just cooking what we like.
Some days it's healthy, some days it's not. So now I'm just pushing that in the grease to get that little fat bubble out of there. The rest of it's done, but we'll get that a little crispier. Okay, so next is we're going to fry potatoes. So I'm going to save a little bit of this grease over here, because I'm going to use it with my eggs, but like I said, you could use butter. But if you're doing these potatoes, you get a really good flavor off this grease I got here. So we're going to keep that hot. I'm going to drain the potato just by tipping it over and leaving the lid closed and squeezing it, and that's going to get all that water out but leave the taters in it. You can hear me squeezing that in the sink there.
I'm watching the bacon. So
now that pan's starting to smoke, we know it's getting really hot. We're going to keep that from getting too hot, so I pulled it off. And then we're going to throw in these taters. He's not wanting that, so we like our, like I said, we like our grease, so we're gonna use that grease that's in there. The great part about this, there's no shredding of potatoes and getting potatoes out. And I'm just stirring it around, make sure it coats the bottom, and then before it takes up all the grease, I want to flip it over. And I'm gonna have a video on how to flip food coming up here. When I learned how to flip food, we just put a piece of hard toast on the pan and flipped it around in the restaurant until we learned how to actually catch it.
Do it again.
So we'll be doing that.
Do it again.
Doing that later. So the trick is to get it to the end of the pan, but I will show a separate video. And then you're gonna flip it. But when you flip it, you notice my pan is coming down. I'm not smacking it. If you smack it, that's when your eggs break. So you want to come down with the food as you're flipping it. And I mean, you can get it up high as long as you come down with the food.
Okay. No, I'm not that fancy, so I just use a spatula.
Okay, so got the potatoes flipped. They're cooking away, and you might want to come over and just shake the pan a couple times. We're trying to keep those from sticking. That hot grease, what it's doing when you put stuff in hot grease on a pan, the grease makes a layer between the pan and the potatoes, so, or the food that you have in there, so it kind of boils between. That's what keeps them sticking to the pan. If you don't let the grease heat up and you throw your food in there, the wet potatoes are going to hit that metal pan, stick proof or not, and there's not going to be any grease under, so there's no separation. It's going to want to stick to that pan. And this still does where I didn't quite coat the pan. You can see where it gets on the edge, but if you just keep swirling it, it'll end up coming off. Then we're going to flip it again, make sure they're nice and brown. If you get a little piece stuck, just give it a nudge. But the goal is to keep that potato from sticking in that pan. We do want it to get browned up though. And I'm running mine on just past medium. So you know where I have mine set. If it starts burning too quick on you, you can turn it down. Every stove's a little bit different. I'm used to this one because we've had it forever. But I tell you, when I first got it, I was real heartbroken because we used to have gas and then we got electric. But you learn. The thing you gotta remember about electric is when you turn it off, it's not off. It'll keep cooking your food for another 15 minutes while that burner cools off. So you want to pull the pan off the burner, not just turn the heat off. That thing is so hot it'll just keep on cooking. You'll burn your food. Okay, we're looking pretty good, so we're gonna do salt and pepper. And I'm just sprinkling it over it. Not a whole lot. You can look at the pan. I got enough just to coat the top a little bit, and then we'll mix all that in. And you might have preferences again. I didn't measure. It's probably 1/8 of a teaspoon, but you know, you got to put your like on it, and you shouldn't be getting out all the measuring cups for something as easy as this. And it's getting nice and brown. Now the bacon, we'll give that a check. It should be getting cooled off enough to test. And you can see it's not real hard. Still, it looks crispy, and it is crispy here, but it's not real hard, and you get some not so crispy. If you want to get rid of that, like I said, in restaurants, what we do is we put a weight on it. You could also use one of your other pans and just set it down on top of the bacon while it's cooking, and it'll get rid of all those. We like that part, so we're leaving it on. But that's why in restaurants your bacon sometimes or mainly comes out really flat because they're putting a weight on it to keep it flat. It makes the bacon look a lot bigger because it's all stretched out. So again, I'm going to check this. It's been about 15 seconds on that heat, and you can see it's smoking good. The grease is almost gone. So it should be browning up now. It's all soaked in the taters. And since these are rehydrated, they're already soft, so you're not having to cook them till they're soft. You're just browning these taters because they're already done for you when you take it out of that container.
And also, the less you stir, the better.
Yeah, you don't want to keep playing with it because since they're cooked, they're just going to turn into mush. So if you notice, I haven't really touched this a lot. I'm doing more of a flip, and if you can't flip that yet, just take your item under the real careful and flip it this way, so you're not digging into the taters and making mashed potatoes out of them. So you can use your spatula and do that too. I just try not to very gently tap in the top of these to break them apart. I'm not getting rough with them because they will just turn into mashers. So we're going to spin them around again. This part's easier to do. Just leave the pan right on the burner and just kind of keep swirling it. And that's just making sure you're getting everything off the edges, all the seasoning. And then you know it's all loose, so we're going to flip again. Oh, those are looking pretty crispy. What do you guys think, Kasha? They look good for the kids?
Yeah.
I'm not reusing this pan. I'm going to let these taters sit here. So I'm going to turn the heat off because they're almost where we want them. And like I said, they're going to keep cooking because that's hot. So if I want to stop cooking, move it off the burner. I want those to kind of keep frying lightly while I do the eggs so they stay hot. So now we're going to turn on the egg. I'm going to go to medium heat. In the pan I did earlier when you guys were watching, I dumped some of the bacon grease in there so we didn't have to use butter. If you were using butter and you didn't want to do it that way, you know, you're putting like probably a teaspoon of butter for each 2 eggs or egg you put in the pan. That way it has enough to coat the pan. But like I said, we like bacon grease. So we're going to eat some bacon grease. I figure if you eat bacon grease and you're eating enough fresh vegetables, as you see in our video, we eat a lot of fresh stuff too. It kind of counteracts it. We don't eat like this every day, and if we do, it's usually in the morning. And see that they're still cooking. So I'm going to put one more time. Now they're almost perfect. Golden brown.
Really light. I don't have a good light.
Just like
well, let me see if I can.
House of Pancakes, I think is what it's called. Is it IHOP? No, what's the other one called? A Huddle House. They use the same type of potatoes too there, but they do, you know, 50 gallons of time soaking so that they come out. And people love their taters and they wonder where they get them. Well, that's where you get them. They're
Dollar Tree.
Dehydrated potatoes. They don't get them from Dollar Tree, but that's where you can find them cheap. You can find them at Kroger's and Walmart, but you're going to be paying $2 to $3 a container versus the dollar store having the exact same brand for $1. So really, at this meal's rate, we got 1/3 of the pound of the bacon we cut off in the little strips. So we got like $1.50 in bacon. This container was only $1, and we used the bacon grease, so we're at $2.50, and we got trying to do 2 eggs in there, so you can do this whole meal for under $3. So I'm gonna crack these eggs again. These eggs are from a friend of ours that has chickens. That's why they're different colors, but the egg shells are a lot harder. So you got to hit them a little harder. Just crack it on the edge of the pan and hold the egg firm when you do it. It makes a slice in there. You can flip it over and do it. I'm just showing it this way for you to see. Make sure the yolk don't hit it and tip it fast. That way you don't get any stuff in your pan. And these are going to be over easy eggs. See how hard that egg is? It didn't even hardly crack that when I smacked it. These shells are a lot harder when you're using a regular one. And the other difference is between home eggs, or someone you know that has chickens, and the store, these aren't fast growing hybrid chickens, so the egg yolks are very yellow. When you get egg yolks out of the store, they're more of a, let me see if I got something here. See the pale yellow on that little dish there? That's how pale yellow they normally are compared to that. The more grass the chickens eat, the more yellow or orange it's going to become. Again, I'm not going to measure, just going to do a couple shakes, salt and pepper. Just enough that you like it, and you can always add more. That pan is still heating up.
So just to let you guys know, over easy egg is...
An over easy egg means all this white is cooked. The yellow should be still yolky. And you can do what they call crispy over easy, which is a really hot and a lot of grease, and it crisps up the shell, the outside, or you do a non-crispy. We try to keep ours right in between. Now see this thick part? Everyone has trouble cooking through this. Take your spatula when you put it in there without hitting the yolk and break that membrane around that egg. What that's going to do is spread out that white, and you can hold it up like this a little bit and kind of get that white to move. But now you can see the white's all kind of moved out around there, so it's a lot thinner. Now I'm not cooking it on high. I'm keeping it at a nice medium temperature. I'm going to go down a little bit because I don't want real crispy. So the hotter it is, the crispier that egg's going to get. And again, with that oil, the egg slides real nice. So this is where the flipping comes in the head. A lot of people won't do over easy because of the flipping. So you can stick your, if you're going to stick a spatula under it, cut them in half and then put it on your spatula and roll it over. If you learn how to flip, which I suggest doing, because a lot of the cooking that you're going to be doing is flipping stuff, and that's why they flip it, because you don't destroy the product. So right now, if you look at the yolk, or the white, it's almost cooked. It's got a little gel around the yolk. This is all cooked. So what we're going to do is flip that. And again, when you go up, you're going to flick your wrist, and you're going to bring the pan down a little bit slower than the egg as the egg comes down, so you don't break the yolk. So you're bring the pan down to catch it. Now I got just a little bit of cooked on the bottom here, so you can see where it's not. It's still soft. The yolk is nice. So the only difference between over easy and sunny side up is the sunny side does not get flipped. Usually the sunny side. Okay, now I only had it upside down for about 30 seconds. We're going to flip it back over. And now you can see yolk still nice and soft. All this white has been cooked. And then we're just going to roll it off onto the plate. And our hash browns have been sitting there staying warm on that pan, still cooking a little bit, so I did flip them. And we're going to put some hash browns down on it. My boy loves his hash browns. And it looks like a lot more. There's 4 or 5 pieces of bacon, but that's really only 2 slices of bacon. So the kids think they're getting a ton of bacon, and they love their bacon, and it makes them happy. So that's how we do it.
So for those people who like their toast, you can also have a toast. My kid is not eating bread with his breakfast, so we just skip that part. But you can always add a toast and butter, toast and jelly.